Hey and welcome to Where Winds Meet with Aragon. In this video I want to share my updated build guide for Silkbind Jade. There'll be a link in the video description to this document and you can view the entire build and everything you need to set it up for yourself. But this video should help a ton more to make it a lot more clear how to play this class based on the new changes we got with version 1.2. The rotation changes up significantly and you should be easily topping those damage charts in group content. The highest I got recently was 2.7 million in the sword trial, but the group was kind of bad. So we'll start things off with the skill rotation, as it is the most important and it changes with the new update. We now no longer can get 2 stacks of Emerald Barrier, but the buff will last for 15 seconds and give us 30% projectile damage. We can now actually make use of Peak's Springless Silence to trigger Lingering Bone, which makes this inner way actually useful, which has been reworked to give that bonus even if you're targeting a boss which you cannot knock up. On top of that, the new Pursuit skill allows us to gain up to 20% charge skill damage. So with that in mind, our rotation changes. You can see it fully listed in the document, but to walk you through it slowly, we're going to start with Emerald Barrier. This will give us that 30% projectile damage buff. Then we're going to switch over to the Umbrella and we will use Spring Sorrow here. This puts the debuff on the target so we gain 20% extra projectile damage against them. Then we will use our Umbrella Light attack, but the charged version, so you'll simply hold down the ability until our blossoms are full. And you see those pink blossoms on the umbrella here. Once they are full, we're going to use Unfading Flower. So you'll throw your umbrella into the air like so, and that frees you up to use other abilities. So we switch to the fan. And now we're going to cast Peak's Springless Silence. So once you do so, you're going to need to immediately follow it up with your Pursuit Heavy attack, which is from our Fan Heavy attack. So again, as soon as you've cast Peak's Springless Silence, you follow up with the prompt on the screen. It can be F or it can be OR as per your Fan Heavy attack skill. Your Peak's Springless Silence will apply Lingering Bone to the target, which just triggers our inner way to give us that extra physical attack bonus. But the follow-up Pursuit skill will give us 3 stacks of Spring Shock. You will want to do this rotation quickly, so you can get this to 5 stacks and maintain 5 stacks. I'll show you that a little bit later. But after you've cast that Fan Heavy attack, the Pursuit skill, so we'll do so again, you want to use Soaring Spin, the Mystic skill, followed by Leaping Toad, and then immediately Emerald Barrier, cutting the end animation of Leaping Toad. So we have Soaring Spin here and Leaping Toad just here. And that is your full rotation. You can come to this training dummy and you can practice it. So as a quick demonstration, you can see here how you need to perform this rotation quickly enough to maintain all of those buffs. You need to be quick enough so that, as you can see here, you're getting those 5 stacks of Spring Shock and you maintain them by rotating through these abilities fast enough. So that's about it, how you need to play Umbrella and Fan after the version 1.2 update. I made a pretty comprehensive video going over the Mystic skills, testing them all again on tier 4, and that gives explanation as to why we're using Leaping Toad and Soaring Spin now, instead of Dragon's Breath and Drunken's Poet. So we'll go to the next category, our weapon set for this build. I also made a comprehensive video for this. I'm personally going with Ivory Bloom. This gives you the maximum amount of damage potential possible, but it's risky because you have to be at full health. So you need to be good at the game basically. If you have skill issues, I would highly recommend instead you use the Mist Willow set. This is very reliable. You will gain this 12% pretty much all the time to all your light and projectile attacks. But as I discussed in my comprehensive video with all these tests, in an ideal situation, Ivory Bloom is just better. So as for the armor set, well, this doesn't really matter. None of them will help you with damage, and I've gone with this Flawless Defense set. Physical defense and 5% damage reduction, increasing if we fall below 60% health. You're able to change your set here, even if you've used up your 8 free attempts with just 50 Echo Jade. I did have nearly 3,000 before doing all these tests and the amount of times I had to switch between them. Next up, we look at tuning and the actual stats you want to be going for. As an easy thing, you can just go with what the game recommends here. But ultimately, any tuning perk that gives you bonuses to damage stats will be useful to you. Just try and make sure that it's not giving like physical defense or Bell Strike, which is useless to us. We need Silkbind. And ultimately, you're just going to have to get lucky when tuning your gear pieces. Sometimes you don't, and you end up with some useless stats. But I would highly recommend when tuning up these gear pieces, like I will do with an armor piece, try and start with the gear piece having an already legendary perk, and then when you go to tune, add 4 of these that give a guaranteed perk. Once they're all filled out, you can just add material for XP. And that way you can end up with gear pieces that have all legendary perks. But it's still random how much of the stats you're gaining. So ultimately, good luck with your tuning. As for your arsenal, this is very important. By default, this will just be on general. So make sure you're clicking switch paths and then selecting Silkbind. This will give you a significant boost as it changes from regular physical attack to your class specific, which is a separate multiplier to your damage. And while we're here, yes, try and have a gear set maxed out for every tier, and that will ensure you get the maximum benefit here. Moving on to our inner ways. There are now 3 static inner ways pretty much every build wants to use. But then there are 4 optional ones that you can use in your 4th slot. So the static ones are Moral Chant, just a solid damage boost that's very easy to maintain. Blossom Barrage, making your Spring Sorrow give you that damage boost, have extra cast speed, and even some multi-target effects. And third, we have the new Star Reacher, as it actually works for bosses now and gives us that physical attack bonus. I do ideally want to get it upgraded, and this will last then 12 seconds and we can nearly have full uptime on it. But again, in the 4th slot, you could use Invigorated Warrior. When you get that to tier 6, you'll have the damage bonus regardless of getting hit. But if you are in content where you get hit a lot, maybe not use this and use something else. 5-fold Bleed is pretty great, especially because you can get it to tier 5 super quickly. This gives that extra critical damage, but its overall damage is only going to be like 4 to 5% in our build, which makes it fall behind something like Invigorated Warrior. There is the option for Battle Anthem. This can give up to 15% charge skill damage. That can be very useful when a lot of your damage is coming from your Umbrella Spring Away attack. And finally, we also have the option to run Breaking Point. This can be really good when the target's exhausted to give you that extra critical damage. Again, it's up to you what you want to go with here in your 4th slot. I personally switch between Invigorated Warrior and 5-fold Bleed, just because they're much easier to upgrade as they are general inner ways. Breaking Point and Battle Anthem are just kind of hard because they're not of your class. Moving on to our Mystic skills. We've already mentioned for maximum damage, the most useful is Soaring Spin and Leaping Toad. If you are running out of vitality needed to cast these, prioritize just Soaring Spin and don't use the Leaping Toad. Again, you can check my in-depth analysis on the Mystic skills as per the version 1.2 update. And that goes into a lot more detail as to why we're using those two. As for Divinecraft, highly recommend Fire Oil. It will do the most amount of damage when you're trying to top those damage boards. You just need to make sure it's selected here. And in your settings, game options, scroll down to near the bottom, and you can enable auto use on Divinecraft. This allows you then, whenever you enter combat and attack something, it will immediately activate that Divinecraft, putting that damage on the target. So with Fire Oil, that's that extra dot as you see here. It's not a crazy amount of damage, but it is a little bit extra. In terms of where to top up on that, you can go to like this area or this area. and there are all these braziers here which you simply interact with. But then we have our consumable, and yeah, if you are seriously tryharding with damage, use this. It's our double shreds with a good boost to our physical attack, and you can simply craft it here using these ingredients. But that is about it for the entirety of this build. Again, document will be linked below, and ultimately I hope this helps. If you have any of your own tips you'd like to share, feel free to leave them in the comments below. Thanks all for watching, and we'll see you guys around.